right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mace Kelty with the City of South Fulton Public Art Commission, and I'll be facilitating the call this evening. Tonight, we wanted to have a community brainstorm meeting regarding the potential of roundabout artwork at Stonewall and Butner Roads. We've had a lot of citizens express an interest in exploring what that could look like. And so the purpose of this call tonight is to just kind of give you some background about the commission, give you some background about how these types of projects come about, let you know what the public art works criteria is. So that way, once we move into the public engagement portion of this whole timeline, you will have the information that you need to be able to effectively. So for the agenda this evening, we're going to just do a quick Public Art Commission overview. We're going to talk about our projects and the budget. We're going to talk about some of the community feedback that we've gotten prior to this call, and which is kind of the reason why we're having this call. We'll talk about the artwork case study for the roundabout that the city already has. We will let Public Works go over some of the GDOT safety criteria for the roundabouts. We have a sculptor and a sculpture lecturer with us tonight, Paige Birch. And so he's going to provide us with some best practices for these types of projects of this scope scale, particularly when they're funded by government dollars. We're going to talk a little bit about the RFP process and timeline, and then we'll allow the elected officials an opportunity to give some input before we go into the community member input and questions. So South Fulton has an 8-member board. It's a volunteer advisory board. And we are responsible for promoting, encouraging, increasing the support for and the installation of public art. We meet every third Thursday at 11 a.m. and a virtual link is always available on the city's calendar on the city website. And some of the projects that we've completed so far are the murals at Sandtown Park and Krill Park. And there's a Burdette Park mural that's currently in the design phase. So in accordance with the ordinance, the mayor's appointee serves as the chair. Her name is Myrna Fuller. And these are the other members of the Public Art Commission. This particular roundabout is located in districts 2, 3, and 4. So Aurelius Cooper, Tracy Harden, and Tisha Smith are the specific Public Art Commission members for this particular area. For this particular fiscal year, we have a few projects that we've already lined up that we've secured funding from. And the funding for the Public Art Commission comes from the hotel motel tax. It's 3% of what's left over after it goes into the general fund. And then we also receive some additional money from the general fund. So the dual art roundabout artwork, we have budgeted $50,350 for that project. We have a part-time public coordinator that we're bringing on board, and that's a $30,000 spend. We have a public art maintenance fund, which is $25,000. We are launching an artist incubator program next year, and that's $21,600. There's a Sandtown mural in partnership with Georgia Power, that's $17,000. A Wilkerson Park mural budgeted at $12,000, and that D4 project may change locations. They're still kind of working on the details on that. We have budgeted $6,000 for our website and marketing, $1,418 for art and office supplies, and then $500 for student artist stipends. So the reason why we're having this particular meeting is because we have gotten feedback from residents before about an interest in the roundabout. And that feedback came from a citywide public survey that we did. It also came from some public engagement meetings that we've already done. So we've met with the Fulton Industrial CID, the Sandtown Community Association, the Cliftondale Community Association. We presented at a District 1 town hall, a District 5 town hall, the Red Oak Art Festival, Old National Merchants Association, and the Cascade Business and Merchants Association. And then we've also held some meetings with council members and other stakeholders. So I wanted to give you kind of a breakdown of some of the things that citizens have asked for. We asked residents as part of the survey what were their top 5 asks for what types of public art that they wanted. So I did summarize the D2, D3, and D4 findings. And so across all of those districts, in those top 5 selections were large scale iconic art. And that fits in line the with the roundabout sculpture project. So we've already done a roundabout sculpture project, or monument project as they called it, in District 1. This project was spearheaded by Councilwoman Rao, and the artist for that was Alan Peterson with AP Fine Arts. This particular project, the goals were placemaking, which basically is how you identify and emphasize your community identity, to beautify the community and increase property values, and to attract new businesses and visitors through improved optics. And the project installation, what you see in terms of those panels, they are designs that were forged out of flat aluminum plates. And to give you an example of what that is, if you are driving down the expressway and you see the large signs above the freeway, it's the same type of material. So there were forged aluminum flat plates, and they were lifted high on posts in the center of the roundabout. They were 2-dimensional cutout designs, and the cost was $12,000. So with this particular project, how they approached it was the artist came out to the community and introduced himself. He asked them for ideas of what they wanted to see in the roundabout. And based on the feedback that they gave him and some of the kind of scenery that they said that they really wanted to highlight, he came back with sketches for the community to review. Once the community reviewed those sketches and gave their feedback, he tweaked them again. He went and came back a third time, and that's when he worked with the community to finalize those panels. So that's how that project came about. It was actually a very cool collaboration, and I hope that this particular project is able to kind of have some of the same type of engagement, because I think residents really liked being a part of it the whole way through. So one of the things, one of the primary reasons that we wanted to have this meeting was to explain that there are specific guidelines for roundabout artwork. Like a mural is pretty simple. You can essentially do a mural in like 3 weeks. With transportation projects, there's a lot of oversight that goes into it. There's a lot of stakeholders at the table. There are a lot of I's that have to be dotted and T's that have to be crossed. So some of the things that people said were, they wanted a fountain in the roundabout, or some type of stone structure, or very elaborate lighting displays. And those particular designs, while they're very beautiful, they unfortunately do not align with the GDOT criteria for roundabout design. So GDOT has a roundabout design guide. It's a public document that you can view on their website. And City of South Fulton does adhere to their design guidelines. One of the primary priorities is motorist safety, and projects have to be balanced with safety and roundabout performance. Additionally, visibility and potential for collision have to be considered. And as a result, the permissible materials for those roundabout artwork projects are limited, and roundabout artwork designs require extensive collaboration and final approval. So we're very fortunate to have some folks from Public Works on the call with us. Antonio Valenzuela, who's our Public Works Director, and Roussan Francois, who's our Public Works Program Manager. And they're going to share a little bit about why that criteria exists and why South Fulton adheres to them. So Mr. Valenzuela, I'll turn it over to you just to share some insights. Is he on the line?
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Okay.
Good evening, residents of City of South Fulton, District 2, 3, and 4, council members in attendance, and all my co-workers for the City of South Fulton. Katie, you have done a wonderful introduction of what it should be and the definitions on roundabouts and breakaway art that we can install within the rights way of the roads within the City of South Fulton. I don't think I have much to add to all the good definitions you have done. What I will say is that the city of South Fulton manages its own rights of way. Well, Georgia DOT has its own rights of way as well. They are much more conservative than what we are. But when it comes to safety and other issues, we really adhere to the same principles. We want to make sure that anything that we put within the rights way within the city of South Fulton is also it's done in a safety mode, and it's not really a distraction for motorists or either that will be a stop to accidents that occurs due to all kind of circumstances. So we're here to provide any necessary assistance from the procurement side, from the design side, and ultimately through the installation. So upon having a further conversation with our residents and others that will be defining on what kind of art they want to put on the along the run along the roundabout, then we'll have a much better idea of what kind of support we can provide. It's a dual roundabout. I believe, Rusan, you have displayed the dual roundabout. Can you ask Jacqueline to post it right there? Is it feasible?
Yes, Jacqueline, would you please?
Once he does that rendering of the roundabout, what I can say is that we have, I believe, enough space within the right way on both sides of the roundabout, and perhaps a preference will be to have it installed on the sides of the roundabout. So right there you have Butler Road and a Stonewall Hotel that goes across the roundabout. We have areas that belong to the city, and pretty much the areas where you can see that grassy areas that shows on light brownish color, yellow color. That will be the preference where any art can be installed, so we can easily depict where District 2 is, District 3, and so on. With regards to the centerpiece, we have already grassed the area. We have some evergreens and a smaller circle. And due to the proximity of the two roundabouts, the recommendation would be to put on the sides of the roundabouts. And with that said, there's lots of components that have to go with this. Select the designer. In the meantime, perhaps we can consider selecting a designer and also installation. So that way we don't have to be procuring twice for the designer and the installation. Perhaps we can think about to design and install, so that through a collaborative effort between the residents, the designer, and elected officials, we can come up with the best representation of what they're looking for. With that said, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Let me reshare. Perfect. So in addition to our public works experts, I wanted to bring on a sculptor to provide some insight from an artistic standpoint. Paige Birch is a wonderful sculptor who I have had the opportunity to collaborate with through the Atlanta Regional Commission Culture and Community Cohort. He is very well known in the local area and in the Southeast. He received his BFA in studio art and sculpture from Georgia Southern, his MA in sculpture from SCAD, and his MFA in sculpture from SCAD. He's trained in fine woodworking, metal fabrication, and foundry work. He's been a long time lecturer of sculpture and the head of the Master Craftsman program at Kennesaw State University. He's also served as the co-chair for the 2023 National Conference on Cast Iron Art and Practices, and his work has been exhibited throughout the U.S., including the National Ornamental Metal Museum, Sculpture Trails Outdoor Museum, Franconia Sculpture Park, and Western North Carolina Sculpture Center. His resume is very long, so this is just a summary. But Paige, thank you so much for coming on. And I'll just kind of turn it over to you to kind of talk about a little bit about best practices for the design and also working with the government on this. And just really quickly, one of the reasons why I wanted to bring Paige on is because he has worked with local government. And so having that expertise of where both art and creativity and also kind of like government criteria merge is really helpful to have somebody to kind of explain things. So I wanted to bring him on in case people had questions about, those kinds of considerations. So Paige, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ty. I appreciate it. First off, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I do a lot of public art work. I run a public art program for students here at Kennesaw State University. And I've actually worked with Alan Peterson extensively. He was one of my mentors in grad school. We're colleagues and friends now. And so y'all have kind of actually touched on most of the things I wanted to bring up already. Specifically that when it comes to designs for artworks, yeah, a lot of people, they want to see these, kind of large, massive, really sculptural projects that focus around form. But with GDOT regulations, they require more breakaway materials. And so there's still, it really restricts what you can do, but there's still a lot of really interesting things that you can come up with. And so when you think about that, thinking about more kind of architectural pieces, like you saw with Alan Peterson's signs, we consider those architectural just because it's signage, but it's still artistic. It's not necessarily just a straight up road sign or something like that. And so architectural pieces, since you can make them out of, the aluminum materials, the breakaway footers, things like that, those are really good ideas. So, less like formal sculpture pieces and more architectural pieces are really kind of a good avenue to go down. And then, like they said earlier, one of the things you don't want to do in a roundabout is distract the viewers. Specifically, if they're driving, you don't want them to be looking at the artwork as opposed to paying attention to where they're going. And you don't want pedestrians to try to like run across the road or anything to get a better view of it. So, you want it to be really pleasing and aesthetically pleasing to look at, but you don't want it to be so overwhelming that it distracts people, causes accidents. And one of the things that you can do, and I've seen this in a lot of different roundabouts, is utilize landscape architecture. You can do really cool design-based artwork with landscape architecture, choosing different plants, different kind of flowers, things like that. You can do different designs like that. Or you can just use those to accent artworks to, kind of enhance the overall aesthetics with it. Without having, like I said, those really large scale kind of artworks in there. And so when it comes to working with governments and working with clients and other folks in the community, one of the really big things is to just make sure the communication is there. On the front end, if you're putting out an RFP or an RFQ, make sure all the criteria are listed. If you have these specific rules and regulations pertaining to material scale, things like that, budget. It's really important to put those in the calls to make sure that, whoever is going to apply or try to design these pieces really understands specific limitations or restrictions they might have. And then once you actually start on the piece, having a lot of multiple checkpoints. One of the things that seems really fun for an artist is to just kind of like let us go and do our thing, but it can also be really frustrating because, if you're coming up towards the end point or installation and then, wires get crossed or there's miscommunication, it can be really frustrating. So having, checkpoints, say like in the design stage and then in the material gathering stage, in the fabrication stage, and then leading up to the install, doing site visits, making sure that the site is ready for installation, and then on the installation days to make sure that, all the equipment is there. Everybody knows who's bringing what equipment, things like that. And so having a published timeline like that everybody agrees to, that might be in the contract, It might just be, you know, a separate kind of addendum that you all agree to. Some things like that are really important because they help both parties know exactly what you are getting into and exactly what is expected from each party.
Thank you, Paige.
Mhm.
So if you have questions for Paige, we'll take those at the end, and we're not gonna go through a whole lot of detailed stuff in these next few slides, but as we mentioned, we will be putting out an RFP for this project so that artists can review it and bid on it based on their skill sets. And so based on the feedback that we've already gotten from community and feedback that we will continue to get, we'll make sure that those considerations are reflected in the RFP, and we'll be working with Public Works to make sure that we've very specifically identified what the criteria for the artwork has to be. The Public Art Commission will vote on a final version of that RFP, and then we will post and distribute it and solicit proposals. The Public Art Commission will review the proposals and determine the finalist, and then the artist selection will begin, and we will develop a timeline for the project. And keep in mind, these projects take a while, so this is not something that will be overnight. Were there any elected officials that wanted to provide any input or insight before we move into the question and answer?
Hi, this is Councilwoman Gomes. First of all, I want to thank you very much for putting this together and really trying to engage the community and utilizing the input of what we want to see at that roundabout. I think this is a very all-inclusive process that I think will yield us something really nice in that location that will definitely represent Cliftondale. So again, thank you. We can continue to try to engage the community. I wish we had more people on. But again, this process doesn't end here, correct? We still will be able to have additional input.
Absolutely. We're just wanting to make sure at this juncture that people kind of know what the criteria is that we have to adhere to, and that there is criteria. I know like you have some very ambitious constituents. And so looking at some of the photos that they had submitted for ideas, we just didn't want them to be discouraged. We wanted to let them know that while those ideas were too massive for this particular location, we can still do something very cool, just as long as it adheres to the GDOT regulations. So,
well, again, thank you, and I will do whatever I can. This is Councilwoman Gomes, just to make sure that our community is engaged, because this is something the Cliftondale community has been looking forward to. So I'm looking forward to working with you in Public Works.
thank you.
Hi, this is Councilmember Willis. Can we go back to the slide that showed the do a roundabout, if you don't mind?
I'm going to stop sharing, and Mr. Francois, if you can pull that up.
In fact, Ms. Jacqueline is the one that has that PowerPoint. Jackie, would you please?
Thank you for moving forward and taking this arduous task on behalf of districts 2, 3, and 4, which is what Cliftondale represents, residents in all 3 of those districts. This has been a much needed project, and a project that many residents have asked that we move forward with. And so I will also like to, at the beginning of the year, try to have a community meeting. And typically my community meetings are well attended, because I do send out correspondence via mail, via text, via robocall. I use all facets of communication. And so I will also like to have this PowerPoint so that I can put it in my electronic newsletter to share with my constituents. The question that I have when you all make the final selection, does this final selection come back to the city council for approval?
For the artist?
For the artist and for the rendering?
So that's not the way that the ordinance is written. So if the council would like to move forward with that going forward, then they would just need to change the ordinance.
Okay, I was just asking if that is part of the process. And
I guess too, because I know everybody will kind of want to be following along to see kind of how the process goes. And usually during our meetings on the third Thursdays, anytime like a design comes up. So for example, like with the Krill Park mural, the artist has to submit the design and the cost ahead of time. And so we show all of that virtually in the meetings. And so usually that's how people get to see, what's coming down the pipeline in terms of design. So we always do share everything publicly on our meetings, and then those videos are shared on the city's YouTube. So it's not like a closed process. It's just that most of the decisions happen during the meetings.
Okay, so all of the minutes and materials that are in those meetings, do you all send that over to our clerk office or
Yes.
who? Okay, so he has all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll just make sure I get all that information from him, so to make sure that we share the link of the meeting and also the material that you all are sharing. I asked to go back to this slide because I want an understanding of where the public art would exactly be placed, because you all went through that part really fast. And I know, speaking with Mr. Bensuelas, he told me that it had to be placed in certain areas at this location because of traffic concerns. So Mr. Bensuelas or somebody, can you all please tell me where we're looking to place public art?
Good evening, Councilwoman Willis. Good to hear from you. The first recommendation that, if I may put up for you all, is that to ensure that we definitely come across where District 2 and 3 and 4 line marks are, if that's your preference or not. I'm aware of that District 2 comes along Butner Road and takes along a bit of Stonewall Tail here in the picture, going to the north, and going to the south will be District 3, and District 4 is a bit more on the Stonewall Tail.
So I'm more concerned. I'm not really concerned about the districts, to be honest with you. It's all Cliftondale, and that's one point that I want to make, that we just get something that's representative of more so Cliftondale versus the districts, because it could get kind of complicated.
Right.
Talking about districts.
Right.
We just make sure we have all district residents represented. Can you point on the slide where the public art you're recommending that the public art be placed? Because I'm still confused.
Yeah. If that's the case, which just makes our lives much easier, and I think the selection and others will be much easier as well. The initial recommendation will be in this brownish light color, where you have that house and the driveway,
Yes.
both sides. That is the larger area where we still have the rights of way.
Mm-hmm.
I will suggest that will be one of the locations.
Mm-hmm.
You have to install one so you can do different things with the space that we have.
Okay, so we're talking about just putting it there, pretty much. Okay, and so that would only be my recommendation to the Public Art Commission, is that we focus on getting something representative of Cliftondale, which is inclusive of the 3 districts. Me personally, I'm not interested in highlighting District 3, highlighting District 4, highlighting District 2, because from what we have seen in this past election, and when another census comes, our boundaries can change, and certain people may not even be in the same districts, depending on whatever the census says. So I just think we need to focus on the community, which is the Clintondale community.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Was there any other elected official that wanted to comment before we move on to the community feedback? And
Yeah, this is Councilmember Sebastian. Good evening, everyone.
good evening.
Hope everyone had a great day. I really just wanted to echo what Councilmember Willis said. That was the one point I was going to make, because these boundaries can get very convoluted, and that we should really highlight the community and the city rather than individual city districts. So just wanted to make that point. Thank you guys for the presentation. And yes, we all have gotten feedback from folks as to what should be going into these roundabouts. As a matter of fact, I have quite a number of these that's probably going to come to District 4 and some bordering on District 3 as well. So this is a conversation for me that is going to be an ongoing one, because even the one roundabout we have in Cascade, Palmetto, it needs something in it besides the few plants that are there. So I'll get with my rep on the board and we can take that conversation further. But thank you all for doing this. Pushing out the that they are very specific things and things that are safety concerns, and that you just can't put everything inside of a roundabout because it looks pretty. Is good information to have, so that we can let our residents know that there are rules that govern what goes into these roundabouts, and mainly for safety and line of sight and all these safety issues. All right, thank you all.
One last thing, Ms. Kelty. I know this is a volunteer role, so we want to be sensitive to your time and the Art Commission's time. If we decide we wanted to have a community meeting, would it be more beneficial for you all if we just tried to have one cluster meeting, like District 2, 3, 4 Public Art Commission meeting? This is good virtually, but we still have a huge digital divide. So in order to try to maximize participation and feedback, we are going to have probably a in-person meeting. And I would suggest that we try to have at least 2 in-person meetings as we progress along. So would it be beneficial if we just, Councilmember Gums and Councilmember Sebastian, if the 3 of us work together and just try to have one a cluster meeting to focus on this project?
It would be beneficial if it could be everybody all at the same time. And there actually are going to be multiple meetings. So there'll probably be a minimum of 5. Because again, once the artist gets selected, they have to come out and meet with the community to get their ideas first. And then once they get the ideas, they have to go back and sketch those initial renderings out. Then they have to come back and present their ideas to the community, so that the community can help them revise. Then they have to go back and do the revisions, and then they have to come back a 3rd time to present the final renderings. So this process is a little bit lengthy, and it's going to require a lot of kind of collaboration between the community and the artists and the Public Works Department. So all that being said, there's going to have to be multiple meetings, but it would be beneficial if all of the residents of that area could all come rather than having it split it out over districts.
Okay, and I just will ask that I know that we get busy, just try to keep that information updated with our LSs, because when we send out mailers or when we send out electronic newsletters, I would try to make sure I include wherever we are in the process, I'll make sure I include that information in my communication.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
So we're going to move into the community questions and feedback portion. I'm going to go ahead and answer the 2 questions that are in here immediately. And then we can, if you have questions or you want to just raise your hand to offer some feedback, please feel free to do that in the chat. So Ms. Harvey wanted to know, what is a breakaway sculpture piece? So Ms. Harvey, basically, if you think about the material that's used for road signs, which is that thin aluminum, or you think about materials that are used for what do you call it? When you're the railings on the side of the road, those specific structures are meant to, so like if a car were to crash into them, they would break away, and that would minimize the damage to the driver, the vehicle, and to the structure itself. So when you have something like, say, like a stone sculpture, if a car would hit that, it could be potentially catastrophic. Whereas if they were to crash into something that's more of that like aluminum material, it's a safer outcome for everybody. So that's what they mean when they say breakaway pieces. Let's see. Miss Aletha said, is it too late for us to share concepts? No, absolutely not. So we are just getting started with this. And on this slide, we have an email address that you can send us your ideas. And these ideas could be words, they could be pictures, they could be sketches, they could be images that you found online. We're going to collect them all and create a community idea sketchbook online. And once that starts getting compiled, we will send that link out to the council members and to the communications department to share it with the community. And then you can just go on there to see, how that's unfolding in terms of what ideas your neighbors have. We already have some folks that have submitted some ideas, so we're going to start with those. But if you want to submit other things, you're more than welcome to submit those via that email address. And you're more than welcome also to come to meetings with the Public Art Commission and share your ideas there. Ms. Harvey said, any room for local artists? Absolutely. Once we send out the RFP, anyone can apply. Anyone could submit to it as long as they have the skill set to be able to do the work. They have a track record, and the work that they're proposing is within our budget. Absolutely, anybody's welcome to submit a proposal. Okay, do we have any other questions or any other comments? And while I'll just give a couple minutes to see if anybody else has anything. Again, this meeting is a simple meeting just to kind of intervene a little bit and let folks know that while we love some of the things that have been proposed, we just would not be able to do those types of projects due to safety concerns. So we wanted to just kind of start educating the public on roundabout artwork and kind of what the process is. So this is kind of like a pre-meeting. And I wanted to have this information out there because it's going to live on the City of South Fulton's YouTube page. But this information regarding the criteria, I think is helpful for people to participate in the process in a meaningful way, because I don't want people to feel like their ideas are being ignored, or I don't want people to get discouraged. I want everybody to be able to kind of know how to kind of envision what can go in that particular roundabout and be able to submit ideas that are feasible, because I think it's just a better experience for everybody when they have the appropriate information. Deanna says, can we have the public works requirement to help during ideation? Yes, we will get that in writing actually, and we will follow up with the council members in the communications department with some additional information on that. And actually what I'll do is I'll put it in the slide deck, and then when we send the slides out to the council to distribute, you'll have that information in the slides. I think that probably would be efficient. Pamela Harvey says, so far as the murals are concerned, who makes the decision on the theme? The artist typically makes the decision on the theme. They may ask us, for some suggestions, or, things about the community. They may go around and take pictures. It really just depends. But they come up with an idea and they present it. And then if the commission thinks that it's appropriate and representative of the community, then the commission votes, and you need 4 votes to get a design approved. And does anyone else have anything? All right. I know it's the holidays and I know y'all are probably ready for your supper too. So would like to see more Afrocentric work. Okay, absolutely. I'll make a note of that. And if you have like some examples of things that you've seen that you like, if you'll just send that to that email address and we can include that on the community sketchbook. Okay. All righty. Thank you all so much. Thank you to our Public Works Department. Thank you to Paige. Thank you to our elected officials. And thanks to all of our community members. We really appreciate you guys coming out and participating in this with us. As we said, this is kind of like a pre-meeting kickoff. So you will be getting more information about this project and more information on how to collaborate and be part of the process. So we look forward to an awesome project in the upcoming year. And you all have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.